Minnesota has millions of families, each with distinct stories.
We've invited 3 cooks to share their cultural culinary journeys with us.
From family recipes to brand new creations.
The cooks will then show off their skills, flavors, and ingenuity, competing for the crown to be named the winner.
The food is delicious, and there's room for everyone at our table. Welcome to the Great Minnesota Recipe. Tonight on the Great Minnesota Recipe.
Whoa! I think I enjoy baking a lot more now with the kids. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents, they owned a Mexican restaurant. They kind of taught me how to do everything there, cook everything, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. It's a family favorite. My husband, he requests it almost every week, I'd say. My mom and I used to make a lot of banana bread together when I was a kid.
This is really encouraging to see this recipe that your family loves, that you have really made your own.
Funding for the Great Minnesota Recipe is provided in part by Doherty Appliance Sales and Service, Goat Hill Marketplace, the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Do you know how to climb a tree? No. Not yet? You're gonna learn? My name is Maria Crumb. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and I currently live in Isani, Minnesota. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 2 toddlers. This is my oldest son. His name's Gabriel. He is almost 4 years old. He turned 4 in July. And then this is Hadrian. He's the littlest, and he is 1.5 years and very grumpy. Here you go. Here are your Hot Wheels. You want to play too? Yep, that's a lot of Hot Wheels. Everything is just so much more fun with kids. Just the holidays and everything. I think I have more fun now with holidays than I did even growing up with them. And my parents went all out for Christmas and Easter and everything, but now as a mom, when everything gets set up and I plan everything and we decorate and all of that, I get so excited. Like I'm shaking from excitement. I shake a lot like a chihuahua or something, but when I get too excited, it's just too much fun. I love seeing how when they are happy and they giggle and everything, it's just the best thing in the world. Which one's your favorite?
All of them.
All of them.
Thanks for being here. We're excited to see what you're going to do in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you grew up with regards to cooking and food.
So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I was born in Minnesota, and then I moved back here when I was about 17. And my parents, they owned a Mexican restaurant in St. Louis. My dad was from Mexico, and my mom American. So we kind of did a hodgepodge of everything there. And when I eventually learned how to cook everything, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience.
When you were a child and you were learning how to cook, was there a moment where you said, yeah, this is where I live?
Yeah.
In terms of the kitchen?
Yeah, I definitely think it was that the restaurant really pushed that, and that's probably going to be a repeat answer for all of the cooking stuff, because that's when my parents kind of sat down and made sure I knew how to do things, because that was not only helping them, but it was benefiting me as well. And they had us bright and early in the morning for school, prepping everything, and then we went to school, and then right after school we came back, and on our days off we were working there. And it was great, and we would go home and we would do a lot of the cooking too in case my parents were still at the restaurant. And I had a little brother that I was, helping take care of. So it really, the restaurant impacted my, the cooking in my life.
Okay, Maria, what are you making? Or what are we making?
Yes, teamwork here. We are going to be making cheesecake banana bread with a crumble topping.
Sounds delicious. There's 2 of my favorite things.
It's a family favorite. My husband, he requests it almost every week, I'd say. It's not a daunting recipe at all. It just has to be broken down in 3 different parts. And before we do any of that, we do want to set our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So first I'm going to do all of my wet ingredients in the big giant bowl here. So I'm going to do my vegetable oil.
Do you always like to use vegetable oil when you bake?
I think it's a lot easier, honestly. I used to use butter, but I always forgot to take it out of the fridge and soften it, and then melting it, sometimes it didn't give it the right consistency. So I've just scrapped that and used vegetable oil. So now we're gonna add in, we have 2 different kinds of sugar in here. We have white sugar. And then the brown sugar, a lot of recipes don't call for brown sugar, but I use it in so many of my recipes, even savory dishes, because it has that really nice, rich, caramely flavor. And it's almost like honey and molasses and stuff when you put it in things. It just really, really gives it an oomph.
So I see that you were measuring the sugar. Are you a stickler about like flour and sugar and using a knife to measure?
Oh no.
Okay.
I eyeball most things.
Okay.
So yeah, trying to actually write down my recipes, I had to go through and make sure I measured them and I got them all done proper, so that if anyone else wants to follow them, they can actually follow them. Because saying about a 1/4 cup is not gonna really work well if you're baking a cake. Next, we are going to add the eggs. And the eggs, I have done so much experimenting with my ratios on eggs and bananas, particularly for this recipe. I've done less and I've done more, and I found out that 3 is the perfect number for eggs in this.
Like large, medium, does it matter?
I usually use large eggs.
Okay.
So once you've mixed together the egg, sugar, oil mixture, then you're also gonna wanna put your bananas in. And like I said before with the ratios, I have done different ratios of bananas, and 4 is perfect. I've tried 5, I've tried 3, and none of them turn out right. When they're overripe, they add like a really, really rich flavor to it. So I just throw them in whole chunks. A lot of people like to mash them at the side, but I think it's unnecessary. And then the fun part, I get to sit and mash bananas for a few minutes.
Do you leave any chunkies or?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of why I like to do it this way too, because it gives it more texture. And some of the pieces are really small and irregular, and some of them are a lot bigger. About here is usually where I leave it. So
Oh, yeah, there's definite chunks in there.
Yep.
I want to hear a little bit more about your dad's background. You said he's Mexican.
yes, so I say dad, it was my stepdad, but he raised me. So yeah, he grew up in Aguascalientes, Mexico, and he moved to Missouri, I want to say when he was about 16 years old with his family, and then a few years later he met my mom, and I think I was about 2 or 3 at the time, and then they got married shortly afterwards. So pretty much from when I was about 2 years old all the way until, adulthood, it was a big part of my life. And I was doing a lot more stuff with like his family and everything, because most of my family lived in Minnesota at the time. So it was mostly his family, his friends, all of that, and we were really immersed into that culture. I was too stubborn to learn Spanish. I don't know why. I wish I would have learned Spanish, but my mom and my brother knew Spanish, and I just knew enough to know if I was in trouble, because I could listen to what they're saying. But yeah, it was really, really great, because I also got the experience with the food and everything too, and it was a lot of fun.
What other cultural influences have you had with your cooking?
I grew up Eastern Orthodox, and so in that church there's lots of Eastern Europeans going, and it was really, really fun getting to try lots of different foods. And I know I like Greek food more than Russian food. Borscht is not my thing. It's a lot of cabbage, but the Greek food is great. And I got to go to a convent for a little bit, and they showed me, different things there too with the cooking, which was awesome. I'd never cooked anything with crab before, and then they had us make some crab and stuff there, which was a lot of fun. It was very cool. And I think my religion had a lot of influence in, bringing different cultures into my cooking and experiences, because after church too, we would have different families bring in different dishes, and we'd all try everything. We are going to start adding in our dry ingredients to this bowl. The first one, like you said before, I do kind of eyeball my flour a little bit more. I don't measure it perfectly. A lot of the stuff I do with my baking, it sounds kind of weird, is I won't do it here, but I taste the batter after I've put everything together, because I know how it's supposed to taste for it to work well in a cake. And I'm gonna do a little bit more flour.
Maria, how did you come up with this recipe? Is this a family recipe or is this something you made up?
I've seen things here and there where people combine cheesecake and banana bread and stuff, and I know different restaurants, they make really, really fancy cheesecakes that use like banana bread as the crust and all of that, and I'm not good at making cheesecake, so I thought this was a good kind of in between. And my mom and I used to make a lot of banana bread together when I was a kid, so it's a comfort food. It's something I grew up on, and yeah, I love banana bread. And then we're also gonna put in our baking powder and baking soda. I use about the same amount for both.
I have a feeling this recipe is going to be one that your kids talk about, and oh, my mom, would make this regularly and teach their kids.
Oh, I really hope so. I think that them helping me cook and do all of, the prep work and all of that's gonna help build that appreciation for them. And yeah, hopefully I'll get calls from their wives saying, hey, how did you make that? Because he won't stop talking about it. That would really boost my ego.
So when you buy bananas at the grocery store, do you usually buy a few extra because you know that you're going to be making the banana bread?
I order my groceries because leaving the house with kids is absolutely terrifying. With 2 little kids, I should say. So yeah, I always put in there in my memo, I need 10 bananas, I need 5 of them green, 5 of them yellow. So then that usually holds us over so that I can make banana bread. Okay, so we are all done with this batter, and I did add a few things like our cinnamon and vanilla in there, and I'm just gonna set this one aside. Well, these are my very messy cupboards for my pantry. Got lots of snacks and cereals and pasta up here. I put a lot of my baking stuff. I have chocolate chips and all my sugars up here. And then for my spices, we had to get 2 of these Lazy Susans for multiple shelves in there because we have so many different spices that we use all the time. And then I've got more baking stuff up at the top cupboard there. We also have all of our canning goods at the very, very top of our cupboards. And then over here, again with the littles, and then my husband too, we've got everything. We got baby food, cereal, lots of like 10 different kinds of chips and nuts and fruit. Yep, and we have our fish over here. You have 2 fish. What are the fish's names?
Caddy and Whiskers.
Caddy and Whiskers. We got them by accident when my husband was getting bait for ice fishing. They accidentally gave us baby catfish, so we kept them. My husband does a lot of hunting, so we have a deer roast. This is kind of the first time I've actually ever worked with a deer roast. So he wanted me to look at a recipe, and I refused because I'm lazy. I just threw a bunch of stuff in there. We put red wine, bay leaves, mustard seed, basil, oregano, salt, pepper, stuff like that. It smells good. Well, I hope it tastes good. We've got all our cute decorations on the fridge from arts and crafts, and then we have our coffee corner. We drink lots of tea and coffee here, so big variety, lots of food. Next, we are gonna go into the cream cheese part of it. So we've got our block of cream cheese here. I use a whole block because, if you have extras too, and this usually takes about 2 pans, so then you have enough for everything. Then we do the cream cheese, and one of the tricks I do is I add a little bit of flour to it, because instead of adding eggs, which it would take longer for it to bake if you added eggs instead, the flour helps it thicken up really, really quickly.
Okay. Secret?
It's a
Secret trick?
Not super secret anymore, but. So I am gonna mix this with cream cheese. It's kind of hard to do it by hand, so we'll just use a mixer for this part. And sometimes with the cream cheese, it does get a little bit too thick, because right now it almost looks like feta cheese in there. Mm-hmm. So just do a tiny bit of water at a time to help it smooth itself out.
It's almost like frosting.
Yeah, it does. It looks kind of like the cheesecake or the cream cheese frosting.
Yeah.
So.
What I really love, Maria, is that you're actually making the recipe to how you want it. You're not following the recipe. It's almost like you have made all these ingredients and they're to your access, And it's like, I've never seen flour added to cream cheese and then you're just adding the water to thin it out. It's great.
It's because I make a lot of mistakes, so I have to know how to
Yeah.
fix them too.
And I think that's really encouraging. I mean,
Thank
you know,
you.
it's pretty scary for a lot of people to bake because it's so scientific, but I mean, this is really encouraging to see this recipe that your family loves, that you have really, really made your own. Do you find that you're cooking the same things throughout the year, or do you cook for the seasons?
There are a couple of things that I will just do year round, even if it's the crock pot stuff. When it gets warmer, my husband and I love to grill, and we're grilling like almost every single night. Depending on what fruit and vegetables are available in different seasons, we try to work around that. Lots more fresh veg and fruit. And we have a garden, so we grow our own vegetables. Let's go show them the garden. Last year with the gardening, that was actually my first year really getting into that. What do we have over here? What are these gonna be?
They're gonna be raspberries.
Raspberries. And then do you remember what we plant in our garden?
Tomatoes and cucumbers.
Yep, tomatoes and cucumbers. And what else did we have in the garden, Gabes? We had peas and green beans. And we tried peppers and that did not work. And on the other side of our yard, we planted some apple trees. So yep, we have a Honeycrisp and a Fireside apple tree right over there, and it's a good spot. We're probably gonna put another apple tree in our yard up over here, and then we're gonna plant some rhubarb and then some more raspberry bushes. But yeah, this one's the Honeycrisp. And then the last bowl, this is gonna be our crumble topping. 1/4 cup of flour here, and then our oats. The oats I kind of just eyeball, because it also depends on the oats you use too. Some of them are a bit drier or heavier.
And you're using the old-fashioned or rolled oats?
Yeah, I usually use those at home. And I always have a little bit of extra crumble topping whenever I make this, and you can layer it however you want in the recipe. It's pretty flexible, and sometimes I do that. And I usually kind of toss it with my hands a bit, because it's a little easier than mixing with a spoon. And so we're also gonna put in a bit of cinnamon, and then we are gonna use both of our sugars again. And then a tiny pinch of salt in there. I'm gonna grab this one, then to break up that brown sugar a bit more. So it's a nice kind of crumbly consistency in there. So just get it really well incorporated, and you're gonna see all that flour, but there's probably, I would say, 1 part flour to 2 part oats in there. So next, we have everything ready. We just need to grease our pan. Yeah, this is another reason why I like vegetable oil, because I don't feel as bad too when I use a lot of it to do stuff like this. Butter, I try not to grease things with butter, because then I have to use too much, and butter is a bit more cherished in my house.
So like with new recipes or things that you're not used to, you know, do you go to people you know? Do you go to the internet? Do you go to recipe books? What is like kind of your process with cooking and learning?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I'd say my mother-in-law is really great, and my husband has some dishes that I'd never cooked before. Like your basic tater tot hot dish, I'd never made that before I'd met him. And so he'll just tell me, call my mom, just have her send you the recipe. So I'll call up his mom, she's like, okay, I don't really remember, because I just kind of throw it together, and she goes and she digs through some recipe cards, and then she sends me a recipe card from their family and stuff, and then it's really fun.
Do you line up your tater tots, or are you just willy-nilly on the top?
Oh, no, I'm organized
Okay.
with I'm pretty organized with everything in general, but yeah, I even count. I'm like, all right, this many, okay, multiplication, and then I make sure, and I'm like, all right, I'm 3 short, and so yeah, I try to make it up all nice, and I've tried it varying ways, putting it on the bottom and on the top. I found out that did not work for me, so only the top, but yeah, much more organized. So what we're gonna do first with the muffin tin is we're going to sprinkle a little bit in there, about that much of the streusel topping or the crumble topping.
In each tin?
Yep,
Okay.
and each one,
Oh, so you're gonna have some on the bottom too.
yes.
I like the way you roll.
And I found,
No pun intended.
then with this, we're going to scoop A layer about, I want to say, a third of the way, because we're going to be layering all of these components together. So about there, we're going to layer that.
You're gonna trust me with that. Awesome.
I think you're great at this, so.
This is a nice surprise. I was not imagining the layers.
Yeah, it's really nice. It gives you all those different textures and flavors too, because the banana is really, really rich and sweet, and then you've got the tanginess from the cream cheese, and then a really good sweet and kind of seasoned crunch from the crumble topping.
You know, if someone's not a fan of cheesecake, I think they would really go for this.
I do not like cheesecake, but I love this recipe. It gives you all the components without being overpowering. So I'm gonna take a smaller scoop and see if we can, whoop, a little dollop in there like that.
So you don't spread it out. You just let it kind of melt in there?
We actually will spread it out.
Okay.
I usually just kind of get it all in there first and then spread it out a bit. Because that's, usually I have a heavy bowl I'm pouring over a bundt pan and I don't want to stop, and these ones are a bit easier. It's a lot of fun. I think I enjoy baking a lot more now with the kids, and honestly, even being married, I think I enjoy baking a lot more because, I mean, my husband doesn't know how to bake, and so when I do make stuff that he likes, he really appreciates it, and it's better than, you know, just me baking by myself, and I'm like, okay, I did it. And I'll just get one of these small spoons, and yeah, I'll just spread it around a little bit. I think I have another small spoon here. It doesn't have to be perfectly level and even.
Everything so far has been such a surprise. This is so fun.
Oh, good. That's exciting to hear. So then, once we're done with that, if you don't mind actually handing me that bowl again, I could take these from you.
This one right here?
Yep. And we're gonna put a very, very thin layer over the top, just enough to kind of cover that.
This is really, really pretty.
Oh, thank you.
So the cups should be about 3/4 full in the end.
Yeah, roughly. And if a little cream cheese is peeking out, it's not a big deal. There, it looks perfect. If we have any crumble topping, and if you want to, then you just sprinkle a little bit over the top. Again, I don't do too much on the top there, just a little to give it a little garnish.
Okay.
Once this is done, we'll pop it in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, kind of depends on the oven, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it is quick.
Who would be your biggest cooking influence?
I probably have a couple. My family, they're really, really into baking and everything. My mom, she's really, really good at doing the nice comfort home-cooked food and everything. So she made really good chicken noodle soup with the egg noodles, and I learned how to do that. And now everyone says it tastes like my mom's, which is great. And then they say that my mom's tastes like my grandma's, so I feel good about that. And then my grandma on my dad's side, she was really into the comfort food cooking. A lot of it's comfort food, which is kind of important when you're a stay-at-home and you have the two boys. She did, I think it was like a sweet potato casserole, but it was more like a pie. The way she did it was almost like a pumpkin pie, but it was in a big a dish and everything. And she sent me the recipe before she died, which was really nice. So that's really important to me, and I got to have that. And a couple times, you know, before she died, we did get to cook together here and there, which was really great. So I always look back on that and I think about the things she did, even down to, you know, how she made her coffee, and I try to do it that way too. Okay. So, and I usually give them just a couple of minutes, and then they are ready to pop out of the tin whenever you want. At home, I just knock it on the counter after about 10 minutes of cooling, but I make too much of a mess here, so I won't do that to you guys. All right, let's see.
Yeah, the aroma is incredible.
Thank
It
you.
really feels like home.
I think they look beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, this looks so, I can see the cheesecake swirling around.
It's pretty too, because that little added effect is really nice. And since they're hot, they're gonna be very soft.
Wow, look at that. It's like a surprise on the inside.
I've got a little surprise there too.
Very well done, Maria.
Thank you.
It is not too sweet, which I love, and it is not heavy at all, like a traditional banana bread.
Very light, yes.
I think I don't put as much flour in, I think, as most recipes call for, which I think helps a lot.
And you did take the words out of my mouth. Not too sweet. It's banana sweet, not sugar sweet.
Yeah.
But it's not heavy like a cheesecake.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't like the very dense, texture of the cheesecake, so this is perfect.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank
Oh,
you.
of
This is
course.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next time on The Great Minnesota Recipe.
Welcome back to the Great Minnesota Recipe.
The competition is finally here, and we've got 3 exciting judges ready to taste the food and crown a winner. On your marks,
Get set.
cook.
Smells incredible.
I wanted to snitch. I wanted to snitch on the plate.
It works for me.
That's incredible.
Just done perfectly.
I really hope that they get the vibe that there is competition out here, and I better bring my A game. Otherwise, you can just fade into the background.
How you doing, Sante?
I am doing good. How are you?
It's in the oven.
It's in the oven already?
It's in the oven.
Everything's done.
Are you done too?
Yeah.
Classic comfort food with a beautiful twist on it.
Very well-rounded. You got your sweet, you got your heat.
The dish is a fusion of flavors, a fusion of cultures.
You're never finding this plate anywhere else.
And then the taste, of course, the taste was fabulous.
This is a 5-star dish.
I think I have a favorite.
It is my great honor to announce that the winner is
Funding for the Great Minnesota Recipe is provided in part by Doherty Appliance Sales and Service, Goat Hill Marketplace, the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, and viewers like you. Thank you.